So, how to provide 100% reliable internet connectivity. This has always been a challenge in IT, and especially for the networking folks like me. And we're going to tell you how to actually get some of that done. So, my name is Jeremy Gosen. I'm a senior network consultant with IVOXY Consulting. I'm joined here with Justin Ryder from Bigleaf Networks.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for having me.
A quick agenda, you guys can read it. We got some housekeeping, what is uptime, customer choices, and then how we can solve these problems. So first, if you have questions, please ask them in the Q&A. There's a lot of information, a lot of stuff, and maybe we'll cover what you want, maybe we won't. I would say interrupt us and ask a question at any time, please. And we'll be throwing out some polls. These are very simple polls. They're nothing, it's nothing you have to think about too hard. It's a quick yes or no. Yeah, so please do those. Comments, feedback, please give them when you can. Please don't be shy. And if you have to leave early, don't worry, we're recording this, and a link will be sent out at any time or after this, so that way you guys can check it out.
Yep, and don't be shy. Please do ask questions. We can actually just answer them on the fly, and we'd love to kind of tailor the conversation to what folks are most concerned or want to learn more about. And if we don't get to some of the stuff there, then happy to set up a follow up and go over anything specific.
All right, and real quick, you get a survey afterwards about the virtual workshop. Please, please leave your feedback. Your feedback's important because we don't really want to make these boring, and we want them to be interesting. So if there's anything that you think that we could do better on, please let us know. Any feedback is good feedback.
And we got a nice little surprise for those here at the end. So looking forward to sharing that.
All right, here's your first poll. Do you have more than one internet connection at your office? This is something that a lot of businesses have, and it's even if you don't have more than one, there's definitely ways that we can help improve it. And it looks like it's a resounding 100% so far. Awesome. Let's go to the next slide.
All right. Sounds like folks are taking the right steps to guaranteeing that uptime.
Yeah. So what is uptime? And so we could talk about a few different things about uptime. I'm not going to drone on about it, but uptime is your clinics being online. Uptime is your retail, your branch retails being up and online. Uptime is also measured in performance. So if you're having, performance issues at one of your remote sites where you have a degraded performance, that's still going to cause problems. That's still affecting what you would be considered uptime. And with a lot of the industries that we have, especially here in the Pacific Northwest, uptime is extremely important. And that's why we're here to help. We're here to help them make this better.
Yes, we are. And perfect transition here. So yeah, again, thanks again for joining us, taking some time out of your day to learn a little bit more about how Bigleaf and IVOXY can help with this, help with that uptime and help eliminate downtime. We simplify internet connectivity as well as WAN optimization, even over the public internet. So again, Justin Ryder here, territory manager for Bigleaf Networks, based in Portland. So I cover kind of the Pacific Northwest region. Been with the company for just over 4 years now. And just a little bit about Bigleaf. We were first founded back in 2012, but we really kind of first came to market in 2015 and had several rounds of funding since then, and now supporting over 3,000 unique billing customers and many more sites than that. Primarily here in the U.S., but we also have some data centers in Europe, which we'll get to a little bit later. But Bigleaf really exists and was created to provide peace of mind, not only to those in charge of IT and the network, but also the users on that network, because we believe that the public internet should not interfere with your organization's ability to actually remain online, conduct business, and that all of the internet-based technology and applications and cloud applications, which everyone knows are not cheap, those should perform as expected, even over the public internet. So again, I think we all know this, but in today's kind of digital economy, businesses of all sizes and verticals are highly dependent on the internet to run their business, connect with customers, partners, employees, etc. So Bigleaf is here to help with that. And a lot of applications today are moving away from on-site hosting. They're hosted in these large cloud data centers, and things are just moving in that direction. So some of you might be familiar with some of those challenges that can pose. When these servers and applications are no longer hosted in a closet down the hallway, they're now in some large cloud data center miles away. So you kind of lose a lot of control and visibility into that compared to hosting on site.
Let's go to the next slide, and we'll cover some of the other portions of this.
Yeah. So again, the public internet can be very unreliable. I think everybody here knows that, since everybody answered yes on the multiple internet connections. The public internet's just subject to outages, issues, spikes in latency, packet loss, etc. Outages, along the hops that the traffic is taking. So just some of the things that we deal with and help with. Outage and downtime, right? The internet just turning off, going down. People complain, right? There's folks that can't do their jobs because the internet's down. You're paying salary and paying folks hourly wages, and it's not very efficient if they're not able to do things as a result of problems with the internet. Reactive troubleshooting, it can often be very difficult to pinpoint exactly what the problem is and how to solve it, because again, a lot of these things are hosted miles away, and you don't necessarily have control over the physical servers. So I'm sure a lot of you here have called your ISP trying to figure out what's going on. You kind of get the runaround. Maybe they say to restart your modem, when in reality the problem was happening out on the WAN, out on the public internet. In addition to that, we've got frustration, right? It kind of derails IT. They have to go, derail their day from working on something more strategic to go just make sure that the internet's online and that the organization is able to do business. And then maybe you reset that modem and the problem resolves. But as we all know, these problems are not things that can just be solved immediately with one phone call to the ISP.
Well, and then so coming from a network engineer standpoint, it's when the outage happens, right? And so so now I've whether it's at your main site or a branch, your world stops. Your world stops because number one, you have to figure out, is it me? Is it something with my equipment? Am I doing something wrong? Did something hang up? Did something break? And then I'm going into, so now let me stop everything that I was working on and go put out this fire. So this fire is very live. It's very visible, and it's it's visible all the way up the chain. Everybody knows. And so now you're troubleshooting, you're looking at it, you're reacting to what's going on. You might see a connection that's partially up. Maybe you're missing a few pings. Maybe your IP SLA didn't fail over because you didn't miss enough pings, but the internet connection is degraded. And so now you're fighting a problem of, is it up? Is it down? Is it enough to trigger the failover? And now your whole day is derailed until this is fixed. And what we're trying to do is trying to eliminate those problems. And there's not a lot of solutions out there that can really measure what your internet connections are actually doing and make AI-driven choices on what internet connection is performing better, or which internet connection is having more loss, which one is having more jitter, more latency. And right now, you don't have a tool to see that. There's not a lot of tools out there that I can imagine, that we have to make these things seamlessly fail over. And these are the problems that you have today, or at least as far as a network engineering standpoint for me. When I go to customer sites all the time, this is a common thing that I see. It's a little cycle of, is the internet down? Am I getting the performance I'm supposed to? I'm getting Zoom call issues. I'm getting latency on my Zoom sessions. I'm getting Teams performance issues. All of these things stack up. Half the time you end up seeing that it might be something internal, but most of the time it's because you're having ISP problems.
Yeah, and even too with something like an SLA backed connection from a provider, we hear from folks all the time that they're having issues on site at HQ or one of their branches, and they call their ISP and they say, nope, yep, everything's good on our end.
It's the same story. It's not us, it's you.
Yeah.
And you have to fight to prove that the ISP was actually down, or was degraded. So yeah, let's move on, and we'll talk more about how it actually works.
Yeah. And I'm not going to spend too much time on this slide here. I think we all understand that if you're offline, that costs money, right? But one thing, and this is just really big for healthcare, is that there's a lot of intangible costs and kind of things that a lot of folks don't think about. When you look at the healthcare vertical specifically, not only does the cost of downtime cost between $5,300 to $9,000 per minute, depending on the organization, but the intangible effects spread a lot wider, right? So if
you have somebody at the clinic that you're just turning them away, or if anything, you're trying to do things with paper. And a lot of the staff, I would imagine, is going to be very grumpy with you, with the IT in general, if they're having to do things by paper, or machines, the MRI machines, or remote branches then can't talk to Epic or one of the other medical provided imaging systems, all that other fun stuff. It makes for a very uncomfortable situation and conversation if you're responsible for those things.
Yeah, inability to access, the electronic medical records, or transmit an MRI or X-ray. Not only does that cost money, but the impact is going to spread to patient safety, treatment, reputation, customer service. And probably most concerning would be the actual trust of the patients and their families, which a study found was actually one of the biggest financial impacts. Do we have any questions that have come in? I apologize, I can't see the chat. I just want to make sure.
Not yet. No questions yet. So yeah, let's move on.
Okay.
All right. So really quick, most of today's, let's talk about SD-WAN and what is SD-WAN. So SD-WAN, when I started looking at SD-WAN, I was like, okay, this is a buzzword. A buzzword meaning that, okay, I have a software-defined WAN that I can use like a Meraki SD-WAN, to where it's like, okay, I have these two firewalls, they connected onto the internet, and now I can create a VPN tunnel in between the two of them, and it does it all in the world, all in the cloud, and it's magic, right?
And basically an MPLS replacement at that time.
Yeah. Bigleaf is not that. What Bigleaf is something that you put in front of your firewall that optimizes your internet connections to the internet. And it's not policy driven. It's something that you literally just put in front of your firewalls and you treat as a ISP connection. It's outside of the realm of security. It's outside the realm of anything. It is literally just treated like a new internet connection, but it takes all your current internet connections and bonds them together. A lot of the solutions that are out there that try to do this are all policy based. And so I'm not going to name all the names of the ones that are, but it's always going to be, I'm going to select specific traffic and I'm going to send it across the optimized SD-WAN tunnel to the internet. I'm going to pick specifically like Zoom. I'm going to pick Teams. I'll pick something else, but I'm going to forget something, or something else isn't going to work the way I want it to, and it's not going to show up in this policy. So I'm going to spend a lot of time and a lot of expertise and a lot of training learning how to exactly make these policies work the way I need them to. And it's complex. It's open to make mistakes. And it's something that you got to learn. If you're a smaller shop or even a larger shop, you still have to have expertise in this area. And if you don't, you can end up causing more problems than what you were trying to solve.
Yeah, and in today's world, anybody from any department could start using some random SaaS application at any time. They're probably not going to think to, call IT. So that's one cool thing about Bigleaf is kind of the automation and the AI driven policies. So it's really just adapting in real time. But yeah, when you look at these other solutions, they can't do typically the seamless failover where a session does not drop. We'll get into that here in a moment. They might pigeonhole you into using, a specific internet carrier or a specific, firewall, something like that. Maybe it's not, compatible with your existing tech stack. So Bigleaf is an agnostic third party. So we work with just about everything, and we're really here to just kind of make things easy. So alternatively, compared to some of these kind of limiting solutions, kind of like Jeremy said, we can do this all automatically. It's a dynamic policy that's adapting in real time. So you don't need to create any rules or anything like that. It works instantly. These show up pre-configured, ready to work with your existing ISPs. And if you are currently experiencing issues, those will go away, or it will prevent any from happening in the future.
What I like, what I'm liking is that it's automatic. I've already, I've been through, several big installs with this product, and it kind of amazes me of how it works. And so here's the experience of, it's automatic, it's seamless, it's immediate relief and control, operational control and insight. The operational control and insight portion is huge. Because the Bigleaf is pulling the internet connections 10 times a second to measure jitter, latency, loss, and capacity. So you could be paying for a gig. You're not actually getting a gig. Most of the time, that's like an EPA rating. Most of the time, if you're paying for a gig, you might get 700, 800. If you're paying for 200, I have a lot of customers that top out around 160, 170, maybe 180. Depending on what's going on with the equipment involved. And so putting this in there, it also allows for some immediate QoS to happen. So Bob, who's watching the Masters on 4K, is not going to make your Zoom session drop or start to have jittery video or jittery voice. And that's huge, right? Everyone's going to IP-based phones. And if Bob wants to do the Masters, and let's just say maybe the World Cup's going on and somebody else is watching that, those will get slowed down, but it will not affect your actual critical business applications just because of the way the thing is driven. Yeah, let's go into how this works.
Yep, automatic prioritization, exactly. So just to kind of lay the foundation here, and we do have a poll about critical applications in the cloud. So if everyone could take a second to respond to that. But Bigleaf has architected our own backbone network that works with this plug and play router that we provide. Again, it installs outside of the firewall. So this is a pretty cool point here, because just about every other solution that I'm familiar with, you either have to poke holes in your existing firewall, or you have to replace your existing firewall. Obviously that can be very complex, require a lot of time. And so with Bigleaf, we actually sit outside of the firewall. So if you have compliances, PCI or HIPAA. There's a number of other ones out there. Those tend to actually be, really good fits for Bigleaf because we do not affect those. We don't intrude on those. You don't have to, redo those compliances because again, we're not doing any deep packet inspection or anything like that. We're not getting into layer 7. So we're fully transparent to security, which is really nice. And then from there, as you can see, there's 4 ports there on the Bigleaf router, so we can support up to 4 ISPs. And then what we're showing here is basically, simulating 2 internet connections. Bigleaf is going to overlay a tunnel that is going to connect to one of these cloud data centers, where your cloud traffic is going already, right? So we'll get into detail here in a little bit in a moment, but Bigleaf has servers in all the same cloud data centers as AWS, Azure, etc. Again, places where the traffic is already going. And so by having those servers in the cloud, on the same rack space and in the same data centers as these cloud providers, we're able to monitor and control that entire pathway from the edge where the user is, where that Bigleaf router sits, all the way out to the cloud and back. And if you're doing like site-to-site VPN type stuff, you think of that Bigleaf over at that other branch, you're kind of connecting all of the dots with Bigleaf, which enables us to report into our web dashboard and provide all this information to you, as well as provide that QoS, the failover, and all of that optimization.
And so just really quick, I wanted to point out here how it actually works. And how it actually works is you have the ISP connections. They plug directly into the Bigleaf. Your connection then comes up to, you can get up to a /26 that's provided by Bigleaf Networks. So your customers will not see the ISP connections IPs in any way, shape, or form. What they see is they see the Bigleaf IP addresses. And the other cool part about this is that if you need to move your office, the Bigleaf IP addresses move with your office. So if you're closing a clinic or opening a clinic anywhere, the same IP addressing is still going to apply. The same site-to-site VPNs that you've set up are still going to be talking to a single IP address, no matter which ISP or where the location is. That's pretty huge. With some of these applications that you have now, like Azure, you have to build a tunnel to Azure. And if you have multiple ISPs, then you're going to have multiple internet connections. Then you're going to have to set up multiple tunnels. What this does is allows you to use one single IP address to talk to Azure, no matter which internet connection you're using. I don't know if who's ever managing your firewalls at your site. To me, personally as a network engineer, this makes my life 100% easier. I have all of my users that are connecting in on VPN, talking to a single IP address with a single DNS record. If I am hosting an application, maybe I have a web server that I'm hosting. It talks to a single IP address on the internet. I don't have to have some funky F5 global load balancing trying to do my IP addressing and my changing my DNS records on the outside when I have a failed internet connection. That is some of also the really big benefits of the Bigleaf.
Yeah, and so once you're on those Bigleaf IPs, to the firewall, it's going to look like you just have one provider because there's just a single IP block in there, even though you might have up to 4 plugged into the Bigleafs. So and then once you're on Bigleaf, any changes that you're making to the network, you don't have to change anything there on those LAN IPs. So it makes it really, really easy. And between this cloud access network, all of these servers that we have in the cloud, and the software that we're running across it, again monitoring 10 times a second in and out. It's just adapting to the traffic and the network conditions, out on the WAN in real time. So just to kind of break it down very simply, like imagine your data are, cars stuck in a traffic jam. Bigleaf kind of provides private, HOV lanes that your cars can use all the way there and back.
Yeah. So hold on, we have a question. Hold
Optimizing
on
that.
just one second.
Oh,
Hold on one
perfect.
second. Yeah. So how do we address single points of failure? So let's go to slide 18.
All right, I'm going to show one really quick just to show where the data centers are. I do want to mention we do have redundant upstream providers that connect all of our data centers. And then we also have redundant servers and switching within all of those data centers. So once you're on the Bigleaf network, there is no single point of failure there. So really the only thing you have to worry about is single points of failure, I suppose, at the firewall level, and then at the Bigleaf level, which we do support high availability where you can get 2 Bigleafs.
And so, yeah,
connected.
so how you set this up is you treat it like, when you have a second pair of firewall, when you have your HA firewalls and you have to bring your internet connection into a VLAN. And so that VLAN is, you're going to bring that into to a private VLAN. You would then take that private VLAN, you'd bring those into the the HA pair of Bigleafs. And so then you would be able to split that internet connection between the two of them. Yeah. I mean, I'm just reading Glenn's question. It says, that was my concern. Yeah, no, it's actually, I've done quite a few of the HA setups. It's very smooth. It's very smooth failover in between. You just don't see it. One of the other cool things about this is really, as we're looking at this and we're talking about the redundancy portion, I've done extensive testing comparing this against other big products. And one of the fun things that you can do is you can get on a Zoom that's heavily loaded with a large conference room of people. You can watch where which internet connection the traffic is being picked. And then you have an internet connection over here that might be a little more idle. You can take that primary internet connection that the traffic is going across, yank it, and you don't lose your Zoom, you don't lose video, you don't lose voice, everything stays going. That was some of the criteria that we were doing when I had this big test with a big local state agency is we, internet fail cannot stop the world moving. It cannot break our phones. It cannot break our meetings. It cannot break any of these things. And when we yank that primary internet connection, things stay working. That's really the kind of cool part of this is that it's seamless. It's tunneled. It's done. IP addresses don't change. It's just working.
Yep, exactly. And then kind of too on that same, question on redundancy. So I'm here in Portland, Oregon. So, kind of in between those two drop points you see on the upper left hand there. So my primary data center that I'm assigned to is Seattle. That's the closest one to me. So we typically would assign a primary data center, whatever is geographically closest. But again, on the redundancy piece, every Bigleaf site also is connected to a secondary data center, typically the second closest. So if there ever was like a natural disaster and that whole data center went down, which means, Google goes down, Amazon goes down, at that location, Bigleaf will automatically reroute the traffic.
Hey, Glenn, hold on. I'm gonna have Justin show his dashboard because Glenn has a good question and I want to show him versus just answering it verbally. Okay.
So we can definitely jump into the dashboard. Do we want to cover a couple more slides since we are doing okay on time?
Let's jump around. Let's have some fun with it because I want to keep this going. And and I think it's when someone's thinking about a question, I think it's better that we just show it.
Okay, let me get my dashboard going here. So I'm going to be showing everybody my actual home office. So, keep in mind, these are not enterprise connections, but I am here at my home office.
So one of the other cool, while Justin's getting that going, one of the other cool things is that say you have, your branch and this branch, you have a solid business line that has a static IP address. And then you have a backup connection that's, just a cheap DHCP connection that never changes. The cool part about that is that you can fail over in between them, and the DHCP address, you don't have to try and build tunnels directly to that DHCP address, because again, the Bigleaf is giving you the IP addresses. And that's kind of another fun part of how this works. I can't do that with hardware that I have today. If I have a DHCP connection, you're constantly trying to change IPs. Or if you have maybe a Meraki, maybe you can do some of the SD-WAN portions there, but it's not the same.
Yep, it's not the same, and we're not here to say that Bigleaf is replacing your firewall. In fact, we want you to keep the one you have, keep everything the same, and the install really, when you think about it, is no different than installing a new ISP, because the only thing you're changing, obviously any DNS stuff, but is that IP block.
Let's go into the traffic prioritization really quick.
Yeah. So just to give everybody some context, this is the overview page. So it's just kind of giving you a overview of, hey, here's what Bigleaf did for you in X amount of time. And again, happy to go into more detail with this with some of you folks if you want to have a follow up. But just to kind of show you can change the time differences. And just to give you some context for what we're looking at, these are my two connections. This is where you would go in and configure additional WAN ports. So again, you could add an ISP in here, and then as soon as you have the connection, plug it in, and you're online and ready to go. But for Jeremy, which graph?
Well, what we're looking is traffic prioritization first. What I want to see, what I want to show is how you can choose what kind of traffic goes across which internet connection.
Yes. Yep. So back to the configuration tab. So right here, you can see I'm running on DHCP, and I don't choose to have a static from Bigleaf just because I don't need it. But one thing that's really cool, like Starlink or a cellular connection, Bigleaf can take DHCP and then tie it together with your other connections on a static Bigleaf public IP. But here is exactly what Jeremy was talking about. So Jeremy, do you want to?
Yeah, so I will want to talk about this. So, say that you might have a metered connection or a cellular connection in this case. So you can looking at this, it's not going to be, I'm going to choose this port and this, and TCP port, 22. I'm not going to pick which one that's going to go across. It's going to be all category based. And so if it's a VoIP category, you can choose to send, that across a specific internet connection. You can say avoid, you can say backup only, or you can say block. I don't want any VoIP going across my cellular network. I don't want anything going in certain directions. You could take your cellular connection and make sure that it only says backup only. So then that way, if it costs you money per device or per kilobit, it's only going to be used when things are bad. When that primary internet connection goes down. And let's talk about bulk data really quick. What would be considered bulk data?
Yeah, so these you can hover over these and it kind of gives you kind of a general description. If you're looking at a specific application, bulk data is typically like streaming, Dropbox, probably like email, things like that. So when and if that QoS needs to kick in, again, let's say you're on a, gig by 100 coax and you're, pushing 80 megs on the upload, right? Well, a couple minutes later, you might only be getting, 50 on the upload. So that's really where the QoS is going to kick in. And if someone is streaming, obviously, or even like, a Dropbox file taking, another minute to upload is probably going to affect your day a little bit less than, a minute of choppy VoIP and video on a Teams call, or an issue with downloading an MRI file or something
Well,
like
and so
that.
here, let me go into this scenario. Is that I have 2 or 3 different internet connections, but I do not want my rubric backups to the cloud going across my primary internet connection. I want to bring in a new internet connection, and I want that to be the one that's the primary for my bulk uploads.
Mhm.
When we were doing this testing, heavily testing, we took this down to one. We took the devices down to one internet connection. We loaded it up with a bunch of Zoom calls, and then what we did is we put in some traffic generators, and we put in some bulk traffic movers going to Dropbox. And what happens is that the Zoom call doesn't fail. The Zoom call continues to work in the way it's supposed to. The Dropbox upload slows down, is what happens. And then Bigleaf starts sending you emails saying, hey, you are having capacity issues. We are having to slow down traffic on these things in order to keep your Zoom sessions working the way they are supposed to. We are prioritizing your Zoom traffic over these bulk data uploads and these bulk data moves. I don't know if you've ever been in a situation where you've DDoSed yourself with a heavy upload or download, especially if you're not going to be limiting the rubrics or the peers of the world, they can take you to your knees as far as your internet connections go. And so this will automatically prioritize that traffic, and make sure that you're still moving. Yeah, it's a great tool.
Yeah, and on that point too, and I know everybody here on the call said they have multiple internet connections, but there might be some locations where you only have a single one, or maybe some folks that watch the recording only have a single one. There are still some benefits for a single internet connection with Bigleaf for exactly that reason. So there's a demo I used to do before I got a second internet connection here at my home, where I'd pull up 2 or 3 streaming services, start a YouTube video, Netflix, Amazon Prime, have those all playing while I'm on a Zoom call, and then you would see the Zoom call, and the experience on the other side would be completely clear, and then you would see the videos, kind of have to buffer a little bit, right? So there are some benefits for the single connection with a Bigleaf, but obviously for the full value with the same IP failover and all of that, at least 2 connections is more ideal.
So really quick, let's talk about Bigleaf support, and what if I have a custom application?
Yeah, Bigleaf support. I'm going to pull, actually, I think I can just minimize this. Yep. So yeah, Bigleaf support.
That is on slide 21.
Yep. So all Bigleaf employees, again, we're based here in Portland, Oregon, but we are a remote first company. So they are based around the US, but you're not going to sit on hold for 20, 30 minutes. They're 24/7, 365, and all, in-house staffed employees. And I know a lot of companies say, oh, my support's amazing, whatever, and then it's not. But with Bigleaf, it really is the case. So hopefully nobody ever has to give them a call, but if they do, they're going to be very helpful. And in fact, because we are a neutral third party, we're happy to do cross-vendor troubleshooting, even if it's not a Bigleaf issue. Our team, with all the monitoring and our backbone network, can often see quite a bit deeper than either an ISP is willing to admit or provide that information. And then we can reroute traffic or assign you to a new data center, et cetera, or figure out maybe there's a specific hop the traffic is going over that's causing an issue. So I tell all of our customers, hey, treat our Bigleaf support team as if they were an extension of your own support team, because again, our goal is to make your life easier, and anybody with a Bigleaf, their network should be working as optimal as possible.
All right, so Glenn has another question. I love this. Thank you, Glenn, for asking so many questions. So I see, all right, can you speak to the average Meraki MX customer? So the average Meraki MX customer is an excellent fit for this, and here's why. The why is that the Meraki MXs inside them, they have the ability to fail over in between the ISPs, and they also have the ability to do load balancing. I've never seen it work well. What I've seen is that when if you're going to terminate remote access VPN for users to your MXs, as you fail over in between ISPs, the DNS doesn't work as well as I would like. I have a lot of customers that end up having issues with putting things in load balance mode on the Merakis. And the problem is you're coming from two different IP addresses. So if the load balancing, maybe you're using Comcast and then maybe you're using CenturyLink or your level 3 or Astound or who knows, right? You've got some different options. It never works smooth. I always end up having customers that complain about that. And so what it is, and how I get around that with the Meraki is I just tell everybody, set it to a single internet connection. And if that internet connection fails, it moves over. And then you have to wait for the DNS to change. So then that way the users that were connected on VPN now have to connect to this new IP address. That is one of the bigger problems that I see with the Meraki MXs. They try, but again, it's two internet connections with two public IP addresses. And that is always going to be an issue that you're going to have to deal with. And failover is never going to be extremely quick for that. Even on the networking side, you still got to re-art. You still have to move things over. With this, the Bigleaf is already doing that. It's already moving it's already moving that traffic around between the different internet connections that are in front of the MX. Did that answer your question? And so you can have up to a /26, 27, 28, 29. Usually, if it's going to be with Meraki, you're going to need 3 IP addresses for the HA on the outside. So you're going to need 2 reels and a float. And so if the Bigleaf is going to take up a few IP addresses of what they give you, depending on if it's redundant or not. If you're doing do a redundant redundant routers. I'm sorry. Yeah. I'm seeing the polls come in as I'm doing this. And so the big portion of this being IP dependent is that if you have a connection to if you're a credit union and you have a connection to Henry something or Fedline or what are the other ones? Whenever you need to remember these things, you don't. But you have IP dependence that you need to then whitelist with your third-party vendors for like even your ERP systems. And if you have to whitelist more IP addresses, it's always a pain. In this case, with the Bigleaf in front, you are always going to be presenting the same IP address all the time, no matter what internet connection you're using. Even if you move offices, you take that Bigleaf with you, that IP address never changes. I have several customers that are moving offices, and these are problems. They're worried about getting these VPNs set back up again because it's a nightmare. Most of the time you're working with all these different third-party vendors. I don't know if you've gotten them on the phone before or how long it takes to then put in a ticket with them and then reset these things up again on your firewall. It's never smooth. It's always a day, maybe a day and a half of working with that other vendor. Oh, hey, did you set your Diffel-Hellman 14 correctly? Are you using, AES 192, 256, all these other things, right? Once you set it up on a Bigleaf IP, it never changes. You never have to do it again. I hope that answers your questions and helps.
Yeah, like you said, Jeremy, we can, migrate an IP block at one location with a Bigleaf to, another location with a Bigleaf. You can, take the device and move it. And then, one thing I don't think we mentioned too is that Bigleaf can also host Class C. If you own your own, purchase from Aaron, Bigleaf can actually broadcast or host that on your behalf.
So it takes the place of your big routers. And so the routers that are going to be able to host your Class C to the internet are usually pretty beefy. and they've got a high support cost to them. I've seen the ASR 1000s, ISR 4300s. Bigleaf would replace those. And so you would be putting these things on the outside edge. Bigleaf would then be advertising your IP block to the internet with optimized internet connections. You can bring in any connection you want, and they will be able to still provide your Class C to the internet. That's a really cool game changer for some places that actually do have a Class C. Because the router, the ISR that I'm going to put together for you, it's not going to do with any extra QoS than what I have to sit there and go in and manually configure policy by policy by policy by policy. Yeah, it's a pain. It's a headache. Me as a network engineer, this makes my life 10 times easier. If I could throw this at a majority of the customers that I have, everyone would be happier, honestly. Because I can't do this. I can't do what this can do with any other hardware.
Yeah, and you know, one thing too, you know, kind of just about Bigleaf as a company, you know, we have a very high customer retention rate, and part of that reason is because we want to make sure that Bigleaf is a good fit. You know, we're not in the business of, you know, just locking people into contracts for something that they don't like or doesn't do what they thought it would, or anything like that. So all of our orders come with a 30-day guarantee. And you know, again, in over 4 years, I've seen less than a handful of situations where you know, it wasn't a good fit. Obviously, if you're looking for an all-in-one security and, you know, something similar to Bigleaf, you know, we're not it, right? We're not here to replace your firewall. We don't take MPLS connections. A lot of our customers do use MPLS still today. It just goes, you know, straight into the firewall for private stuff.
So
But
Justin,
yeah.
so we had a question come in about pricing. So let's skip to slide 22.
All right. Yeah, so let's talk about the service plans. So
this is a monthly cost. It's not you buy the hardware and it's done. This is a monthly subscription that you get. And you're not locked in. You know, you get the 30 days in the beginning, and then you can sign a 1-year contract. The cool part about this is say you have an ISP connection currently today, and you have your own /26 or /27, and you have devices that are using some of those IP addresses. You don't need to take those IP addresses away from those devices right away. Bigleaf, if you're going to use a single one, only needs one of the IP addresses in that /25, 26, 27. It only needs one so it can get on the internet. In the case, if you're doing HA, it's going to need 3 of them, right? 3 of the 2 reels and a float, Justin, for HA?
For HA, yeah, we require 2 static IPs from each of the internet providers, okay. But we can't support DHCP if you can get 2 of them from the provider.
Yeah, so what it does is it allows you to migrate rather than, oh my God, I just plugged my internet connection directly into this Bigleaf router, and now I have to change everything immediately. I have my primary internet connection on a VLAN. I'm going to plug the outside interface of the Bigleaf into that VLAN. I'm going to assign 1 or 2 of the IP addresses that I have to the Bigleaf device. And then I'm going to migrate this connection, this connection that I already have, over to the Bigleaf IP addresses rather than a hard cut. I'm going to move it. Does it work? Everything happy? Did I change my DNS and all that works just fine? If it didn't, move it back. That's the other cool part about, you know, in networking, I have to have an easy way to get out of trouble. And this is an easy way to get out of trouble. Is I moved it, it doesn't work, move it back. That's the kind of the fun things that, you know, that I work with as a network engineer as a consultant. You know, when I make a change, can I get out of it quickly if I need to?
Yeah, and in working with healthcare organizations, which again is a large part of our customer base because of the, you know, security compliancy piece and all that, but those with, those kind of IP based, applications or connections. Some folks that are using, large blocks, it might take them, 3 months to migrate all of them, because they have to work with the other providers and make sure all the IPs line up. So it gives you the flexibility. It's not like you have to do it all at once.
So we got 5 minutes left. Let's hurry it. Let's go through the pricing really quick.
Okay. Yeah. So as you can see here, essential single Bigleaf router, that's going to come with a /30 IP block, which because of how it works, that provides one usable to the end user. But again, you can't get more. And then the Premier is essentially high availability. It comes with a /29, which with the way we use the IPs, that provides two usable that are included. 24/7 support, all that. Let's get to the plans here. So you can see it's based on how much bandwidth Bigleaf is supporting. And I should have pointed it out in the web dashboard, but I have a gig connection and a 50x5 connection. Some of you might have noticed I'm just on the 500 meg plan. So you don't have to right size the Bigleaf to what you're paying for from your ISP. It's really about right sizing it to kind of where the average utilization sits, maybe accounting for some spikes. So I know from the Bigleaf dashboard, I've never even spiked past 420 or something like that. So the 500 meg plan is fine for me. We do also have volume discounts for 5+ sites, and that's kind of a tiered pricing structure. So obviously the higher site count, the larger
let's
discount.
Look at slide 24 for this, so they can see the different prices. Because if you're going to deploy this to say you're a credit union and you want to drop one of these at each one of your sites, you do get a bigger discount the more you have. So it is nice.
Yep. And I think we might be okay to wrap things up, Jeremy, unless there's any other questions.
Yeah, I think so too. So let's go to slide 28.
Yeah. Well, everyone's business depends on the internet, and the internet depends on Bigleaf. So just had to throw that one in there, Jeremy.
yeah, got to get it in.
So yeah, we're going to be offering a limited number of gift cards for those that want to learn more. Jeremy, what are next steps for folks that
well, I believe Connie will be we're going to have our sales team reach out or reach back out to us. How are we doing that?
Yeah, thanks for asking, Jeremy. All the customer needs to do for this is agree to take a meeting with us. So your account manager should be reaching out to you to try to schedule a meeting with you and talk in maybe more detail about how this solution can work for you specifically. Have Jeremy connect with you and find out some more details about what you're looking for and what your problems might be now that you're having with your internet connection. So if you do that, you'll get a $75 Amazon gift card. So the number that we have is limited. So please make sure if you don't hear from your account manager in the next day or two, please reach back out and we'll make sure that you get that meeting scheduled.
Yeah, okay. And also sorry, Connie, just a quick note for everyone on the call, because this does happen. Bigleaf is fully partner focused. So, reaching out to Bigleaf direct, we don't really have like a direct team. So the pricing would not be different at all. So just want to let you guys know you're in great hands with IVOXY, but I'm happy to help support everybody and answer any questions.
Yeah, so there was a last minute question that came in. And so Glenn's asking, are all the QoS decisions made on the box, or do they have to be sent to the cloud for that decision?
I believe it's happening throughout the entire pathway, because it's in that software defined tunnel. And so when there is a bandwidth squeeze, it knows which applications to provide the priority for.
So it's pushing QoS decisions down all the way down to the router.
Yeah, from edge to data center and back.
Perfect. Yeah. Well, I want to thank everybody for joining us today. I hope we kept everybody's attention and gave a good overview of how this works. I'm a network engineer. I like this. This is something that I cannot do with a hardware firewall or Meraki or Palo Alto. I can't do this. What Bigleaf can do. There's really, in my mind, there's not really a direct competitor to what they do. Just because of the IP addresses that they actually hand off to you versus IP failover to the internet, where I'm doing different multiple ISPs and I'm trying to present different IP addresses to the cloud and to the internet. So if you want to know more or see more of a demo, please let us know.